Alright, what's happening, y'all? Are y'all ready for some Washington Commander football, the 2022 regular season? This is the preview against the Jacksonville Jaguars Sunday at 1 p.m. I'm super excited. We're getting to showcase our jerseys. We're getting to showcase a lot of things. I'm super excited. But of course, this is a preview video. I do this every week before every game where I break down the 5 most important matchups, the 3 most important X factors, and then 1 score prediction. 5-3-1 every week. Of course, I will also be live streaming during the games throughout the entire season. May not make it in time for this game, but I will be back in time for the post-game live stream. So make sure y'all pull up for the post-game live stream an hour and a half after every game, along with the full in-depth 30-minute review breakdown video of what just happened in that game before the post-game live stream, right after the during the game live stream, and just a basic guide and schedule of how this regular season will go and postseason. I'm gonna keep speaking into existence. We'll have the preview videos, we'll have the during the game live stream, we'll have the game review video, then the post-game live stream where y'all call in, and then throughout the week we're gonna have the pro football focus and advanced stats breakdowns for the offense, defense, and special teams throughout the week, and film sessions to go with it as well. So make sure y'all stay tuned for all of the content, man. Weekly constant uploads and live streams. Which takes me to the point of, before we dive into this, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell next to the subscription button so you get a notification immediately. And every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one, make sure you pull up every Friday for the broadcast podcast where we talk about everything funny going on, especially in sports, music, gaming, anime, whatever. And then make sure you pull up every Sunday for the regular season and postseason live streams during the game. Then we take a break, come back an hour later and have the post-game live streams where y'all call in and open up the phone lines. You give your opinions about the team, positive and or negative, and ask whatever questions you may have. 2022 is about to be a great year for our Commanders, man. I'm really excited about it. I'm very optimistic. I have a good feeling, and the content is going to be endless. It's time for some football, y'all. Let's get it. Alright, so starting with the 5 matchups, the first one, I have quarterback Carson Wentz versus the Jags defensive coordinator, Mike Caldwell, who's a first-time defensive coordinator. This is his first time being a defensive coordinator in the NFL, and Doug Pederson. Because even though Doug Pederson's technically an offensive-minded head coach, and he's not directly going against Carson Wentz, you can't convince me that even just the past few weeks and, guys game planning for their week 1 opponents, that Doug Pederson hasn't been with Mike Caldwell giving them all of Carson Wentz's weaknesses and strengths. Take this away, allow him to do this, because he's not going to focus on this, blitz him this way, take away these routes. Like, Doug Pederson is in the mind of a Carson Wentz and telling Mike Caldwell all of the data and even like situational football things that Mike Caldwell needs to have a better chance of shutting down Carson Wentz. I mean, literally giving him the full profile. What he eats, when he sleeps, what's his exercise schedule. I mean, giving him every piece of information that's helpful. So Carson Wentz is going to have to be ready to combat that. This is not a normal game. Even though the Jaguars are technically a lesser team, according to talent and based on how good they should end up being this year, first of all, they're an improved team, and we shouldn't be able to take anybody lightly. I don't care if it's the Lions, the Bears, whoever, because other teams are looking at us the same way. But still, the Jaguars, even though they are a lesser team in the NFL, and one of the reasons that we do have one of the easiest schedules in the NFL this year, this is going to be a chess match. It's different from the Bears that we don't really have a lot of connections to. We don't have a lot of homework on them. They don't have a lot of homework on us. But this Jags game, doesn't matter how much talent they're lacking. It's literally Carson Wentz's head coach from his best years that he's ever had in his NFL career. So if anybody knows his weaknesses and strengths, it's Doug Pederson. And we're going to talk about Mike Caldwell a little bit later in further detail when we get to the Scott Turner matchup, because he has a really interesting backstory as well, and as to why he could be potentially dangerous for this Commander team. But again, Carson Wentz, man, it's time to go out there and ball out, man. We need you. There's a reason we went and got you, traded for you. I felt like we still gave up quite a bit to get you, but hey, you're here, and I hope you ball out. And if you ball out, if anything, the picks that we gave up to get you are going to look like a steal. I know it's a new system. I know it's new weapons, new O-line, new head coach, new offensive coordinator, all of that, but I need you to come out here and look like you're not playing. I'm gonna need you to look better than you looked in these preseason games especially. And it's all on you, man. I mean, granted, I think our run game is gonna be pretty potent, and I think our defense may actually do a pretty good job against the Jaguars. May not be excellent. They're probably gonna go out there and look a little rusty, but overall, I think this team has a good matchup advantage against the Jaguars overall, especially since I see us going 11-6 throughout the entire season as my season record prediction. But Carson Wentz, you gotta do your part. And again, we did not bring you here to be just another game manager. We brought you here to make plays. So what you did in that first preseason game against the Panthers was cool, and it was nice, taking the safe play, taking the layups, which is something that people never thought Carson Wentz can do, and I was happy to see that. But then the second preseason game against the Chiefs, I was hoping that we would air it out a little bit more, and then if anything, he took a step back. And so I'm hoping that we see some more Carson Wentz-like stuff throughout this regular season, especially starting against these Jaguars, because we did not go from Alex Smith to Taylor Heinicke, who is a baller and a gamer and a guy that does things on the fly, but at the same time his arm limits him. So our offense wasn't very explosive with Taylor Heinicke at quarterback. We brought in Carson Wentz for this offense to be explosive, and I need to see that. And then the second matchup, the Washington Commander receivers versus the Jaguars secondary. Y'all got to get open and make things easier for Carson Wentz. Like we just talked about, we're expecting a lot of Carson Wentz. We did not trade for him just to come here and be an average quarterback. We're expecting an explosive offense. That's why we went and got a strong arm quarterback that also has some mobility to him, that can extend plays and make things happen on the fly. Backyard football type of stuff. But the Washington receivers need to make this way easier for Carson Wentz than they've made it for him so far in the preseason. Because we always talk about, and I'm included, we talk about this wide receiver group is the best wide receiver group Carson Wentz has ever had. Michael Pittman's really good, but at the end of the day, he's an elite, probably wide receiver too. Not necessarily like a true number one, and even if he is, he's not a top 20 guy like a Terry McLaurin, who I feel like is a top 12 guy. And then on top of that, Curtis Samuel, Jahan Dotson looks like he might end up being the true for real. And then all of these tight end options, and if we finally utilize Cam Sims, and then you got all these running back options, J.D. McKissic, Brian Robinson, and Antonio Gibson. This weapon arsenal that Carson Wentz has at his disposal is the best he's ever had in his career, and I don't even think it's close. But at the end of the day, I got to go out there and actually prove it. All of this that we've been saying about these weapons that Carson Wentz has, specifically the receiving group and the tight ends, y'all got to go out there and prove it. Y'all got to go out there and not make us look like idiots out there, man. Y'all need to back up what we're saying. Again, Carson Wentz, if anything, he's inaccurate. Even though I feel like he's improved in accuracy since he's gotten here, since training camp and things like that. And he looked pretty accurate in the preseason for the most part, even though he missed that one deep ball to Terry McLaurin. Y'all got to go out there and make us analysts and fans that feel like y'all should be a really good wide receiver group not look like complete idiots. And again, y'all most important job is to get open and catch everything that Carson Wentz throws to y'all and just make the job easier for him. Granted, he's Carson Wentz, and again, we brought him here to make plays, but it would be nice if y'all made the easy stuff easier for him and allow him to get into a rhythm and become more confident that when he throws it somewhere, y'all are going to be there and y'all are going to make the catch. That way he can become a more confident thrower, get into a rhythm and all of that type of stuff. And then matchup number 3, the Washington D-line versus Brandon Sheriff and the rest of the Jags O-line. And this defensive line, it's time to put up or shut up. Y'all are supposed to be the best defensive line in football. Pro Football Focus literally only feels like y'all are second to the Rams because Aaron Donald. And Aaron Donald's one of the best defensive players in NFL history, arguably the best. And without him, we would easily be the number 1 D-line. And so it's just no excuses now. Y'all need to go out there even without Chase Young and perform, especially against a Jags O-line that's going to be one of the worst that we play this season. Even adding Brandon Sheriff is just not going to be great. I mean, there's projected starters are Cam Robinson, Ben Barch, Luke Fortner, who's replacing probably their best O-lineman from last year, Brandon Linder, who retired, and then your starting right guard is Brandon Sheriff, so that's going to be a fun revenge game right there, seeing Deron Payne, Jonathan Allen, all these guys go against Brandon Sheriff, and maybe even some of the edge rushers if we do some stunts. We definitely need to mix some stunts in there. And also right tackle Jawan Taylor. I mean, maybe including the Bears O-line, this is one of the worst O-lines we'll go against all season, and maybe you can include the Giants in there as well twice a year. year. And so if there's any time for our D-line to go out there and look like the elite D-line that we expected, is this game right here. It's time to step up, man, for real, D-line. We keep talking about, even I think it was Marcus Spears on ESPN like last week talking about that our D-line, this will finally be the year that they really show up. All of these guys have this immense talent, unlimited potential, and they're starting to mature, and this may be the year that they finally turn it around, specifically the edge rushers that he was talking about, like Montez Sweat and Chase Young when we get them back. That's not part of this game, but I'm expecting big things out of Montez Sweat, Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne, and even for Darian Mathis to start, and then the rotation of guys that are replacing Chase Young, like James Smith-Williams for the most part, Casey Toohill as the direct backup to James Smith-Williams, and then like the rotation of Shaka Toney as the situational pass rusher when we need it. And it would be lovely if the offense is going crazy and we can play with a lead so that this defensive line can focus on primarily penetrating and getting to the quarterback instead of having to be more neutral and hesitate because they're run defending and rushing the passer. If we play with a lead, they can focus on primarily rushing the passer, especially if we get them in third and long situations, and I think that will bring out the best of our D-line. They complement each other. If our offense is out there scoring points, our D-line can focus on what they do best, and that's rush the passer. And then the fourth matchup, Scott Turner's scheme and play calling and Washington's blocking versus the Jaguars' strongest position group, the linebackers. They run a 3-4. So even after losing Miles Jack, their best position group is easily Travon Walker on the outside as your Sam linebacker, Devin Lloyd and Chad Muma and Olakun, who they picked up from the Falcons, all inside. Then Josh Allen opposite of Travon Walker on the outside. I mean, that linebacker group is crazy. Again, you're including those edge rushers as the linebackers because they do run a 3-4. They're technically the Sam and the Will, and they can cover better than what people expect out of edge rushers, especially pass rush specialist edge rushers like Travon Walker and Josh Allen. And like I mentioned earlier, man, defensive coordinator Mike Caldwell is coming from 14 years of linebacker coaching in the NFL. And his most notable work was him helping Levante David and Devin Bush and Devin White become who they are with his years that he spent for the Buccaneers. He got there in 2019, and he's been there until this season, where this is his first season being a defensive coordinator for an NFL team, leaving the Buccaneers for the Jaguars. So their most talented position group is easily their linebacker group, and then their defensive coordinator is a linebacker guy. I mean, literally a linebacker coach. Now, granted, that hasn't necessarily worked out for us with Ron Rivera and Jack Del Rio as far as getting our linebackers together. But again, he has recent proof that he can coach his tail off as far as linebackers go, with the way that Levante David and Devin White look like the best linebacker duo in the NFL, especially on that Super Bowl run. And so, man, Scott Turner, I'm gonna need you to scheme up against these guys, call the right plays to create mismatches with these guys, get Antonio Gibson and JD McKissick and even Terry McLaurin, and force these linebackers to cover these athletic, fast, shifty guys and embarrass them. Deplete their confidence by getting some good reps against them and making them feel like, man, this is hopeless. We can't cover these guys. Take them out of their game early. And then, of course, the offensive line and the running backs have to be ready to block as well, because even outside of those edge rushers, the reason I include Devin Lloyd in it is because he's a really good blitzer. Coming out of the draft, coming out of Utah, he's probably one of the best blitzing linebackers and pass rushing inside linebackers that we've seen in a while. I mean, it's like him and Micah Parsons. And granted, I'm not saying he's Micah Parsons because, I mean, Micah Parsons is just completely different on another level. But Devin Lloyd is going to be in the backfield quite often, and we got to be ready. Brian Robinson, Antonio Gibson, and JD McKissick got to be ready to pick him up. And I am a little worried about that situation, especially with JD McKissick still currently being our best pass blocking running back. And it's purely because of technique, because Antonio Gibson and Brian Robinson are way bigger and stronger. So there's no excuses. They just got to become better mentally, technique wise, and all of that type of stuff. Just got to become more refined pass blockers. And the offensive line, y'all got to be ready, man. My Georgia Bulldog, Travon Walker, has clearly shown y'all that he's not playing. And don't forget about Josh Allen. Just because he hasn't exploded onto the scene like a lot of us thought he would after leaving Kentucky, he's still a problem. And again, I want to reiterate, they lost Miles Jack, and that was a huge steal by the Steelers to get in free agency, especially for the money that they're paying them. But they still have Devin Lloyd. They're the ones that took Chad Muma from us. I know a lot of us, including me, wanted Chad Muma. And they're the ones that signed ex-Falcons linebacker Olakun in free agency, man. This linebacker group is arguably one of the best in the NFL potential-wise. They got to go out there and show it. But if we're talking about just pure talent and potential. This linebacker group is insane, especially since they run a 3-4 and you also include Trevon Walker and Josh Allen in that linebacker group. They could afford to lose a Miles Jack, even though it would have been even better if they had a Miles Jack. And then the fifth and final matchup, Brian Robinson and Antonio Gibson versus this 2021 22nd ranked run defense. Again, the Jaguars had the 22nd ranked run defense in 2021. Now, granted, a lot of changes. Added Trevon Walker, Josh Allen's only getting better. You added those 3 inside linebackers like I keep mentioning, Alakun, Devin Lloyd, and Chad Muma all in the offseason. So, of course, I'm expecting it to be improved, but are they ready to improve that much by week 1? Maybe somewhere mid-season when they catch their stride and everything gets together, they get their communication down pat, they get a better feel of their responsibilities and things like that. Maybe then they'll be one of the better run stop units in the NFL. But week 1, we may be able to catch them lacking before they get it all figured out. And plus, they don't have the best defensive linemen in the NFL. They do not have a scary D-line, especially run stopping wise. And so I think Brian Robinson and Antonio Gibson can start the year off right against these Jaguars. But it's going to be up to Scott Turner to call the right plays, to scheme them up. It's going to be up to Carson Wentz and the receivers and tight ends to open things up so far deep down the field to where they can't have 7 or more in the box just waiting on Brian Robinson and Antonio Gibson. And then, of course, it's going to be up to the offensive line to block it up. And it's going to be up to Brian Robinson and Antonio Gibson to make the right decisions, to hit the right holes and all of that type of stuff, to play your game. And then now for the 3 X factors, starting with number 1. We got to limit Trevor Lawrence's mobility and do not let him get into a rhythm. He didn't have a great rookie season. He didn't look like the next coming of Andrew Luck yet last season, even though he did in flashes. And then he's looked pretty good so far in the preseason and in this entire offseason training camp and all of that. He's fixed a lot of his mechanical issues, all of that. And again, I feel like we're lucky to play a team like this week 1, because by the time we get to the middle of the season, they may actually be a pretty potent team, especially if Trevor Lawrence gets going and this linebacker group that they have gets going. But we're catching them week 1, which is probably the best time to catch them lacking, before they get into a rhythm, before they truly know what's going on. They're going from Urban Meyer to Doug Pederson. There's a lot of changes going on. The new defensive coordinator, new head coach, all of that. So many things are different that I don't think they're going to be on top of their game week 1. We have some changes, but not as many as them, which we're also going to talk about a little bit later. But Trevor Lawrence specifically, his mobility, got to shut that down. We've struggled with mobile quarterbacks. We've even seen that just in the preseason alone this offseason. But even in the previous regular seasons, we've just struggled. And I thought that was going to be one of our things that we would be best at, is shutting down mobile quarterbacks, because we have all this athleticism throughout the linebacker group, the defensive line, and even the secondary. But so far, mobile quarterbacks have been killing us, and Ron Rivera blames it more so on gap responsibility by the defensive line. But just overall, we just got to be better as a defense against mobile quarterbacks. And again, do not let Trevor Lawrence get into a rhythm. Don't let him build up his confidence. Blitz him, hit him a lot. Do whatever you got to do to throw him off his game. Hopefully get some turnovers early to throw him off his game. Again, I am happy that we're catching the Jaguars week 1, because I think they may catch some sort of a stride at some point mid-season. Now, I'm not necessarily saying they're going to win the AFC North. I'm not even saying that they're going to be plus 500, but I do feel like they're going to be a tough team to play at some point in this season. And again, hopefully we catch them lacking week 1. Do not let Trevor Lawrence and this entire team get into a rhythm and build their confidence with their new regime. And then the second X factor, third down defense. Please get off the field. We've had this struggle the majority of the last regular season 2021, and then we've struggled with this mightily so far in the preseason. Again, Ron Rivera has blamed it more so on gap responsibilities from the defensive line, but the linebackers got to cover better. The secondary has to cover better and for longer. It's just overall, the defensive line definitely has to get better pressure. They seem like they're always one step away. Like if they were just one step quicker, they would actually get to the quarterback, hit him, get a sack, something. But they're always that one step away, and Pat Mahomes and Baker Mayfield and even Sam Darnold were just out here converting third downs like it was just too easy. And the Panthers didn't even have Christian McCaffrey or DJ Moore, their 2 best offensive weapons. And Baker Mayfield was there for less than a month before we went against them. So there's just no excuse. And so the Jaguars, granted, again, young team transitioning from the Urban Meyer era to the Doug Pederson. It's a good thing we're catching them week 1. But at the same time, they're probably looking at us like, thank goodness we're catching this Washington defense week 1. because the way we looked in that 4-game win streak in the middle of last season, this defense has shown potential that it can be really good and actually get off the field on third downs. But the way we've looked in this preseason, we may not start off hot defensively in this week 1 game. So just like we're looking at the Jaguars, like thank goodness we're playing them week 1, the Jaguars are probably thinking the same thing with new quarterback Carson Wentz, some additional weapons, tight end, receivers, all of that, Brian Robinson at running back, new offensive line pieces, and then defensively, we just don't see him to start off hot. So, hey man, this third down defense, if anything, we got to get that right and get off the field and allow our offense to go out there and win the time of possession and make plays and put some points on the board. And then third, man, we got to start fast and limit self-inflicted errors. And that's been a general theme throughout this video about starting fast, because like whoever starts the fastest is probably going to win this game. Whoever comes out and looks like they're at least in somewhat mid-season form is probably going to be the team that wins. And I feel like I have faith in us to do that, because even though we have like only half of our starters returning on offense, on defense we have at least 10 guys returning starter wise. Really the only thing that's really missing from last year is like Landon Collins for Percy Butler or Derek Forrest or technically Benjamin St. Juste. That's it, because Chase Young wasn't there for that 4-game win streak. He got hurt in the first game out of that 4-game win streak. So technically, when our defense was playing its best, James Smith-Williams was our starting defensive end, opposite of Montez Sweat. So this is literally our exact returning starting defense from last year, other than Landon Collins for Percy Butler, Derek Forrest, or Benjamin St. Juste, whoever's in and out for that Buffalo nickel position technically. And again, our offense has technically like half the starters returning, and the quarterback is new as well. But at the end of the day, the Jaguars have a lot of changing pieces, both offense and defense, completely everywhere. They lost their best offensive lineman, arguably, in the center that retired. I mean, they gained Brandon Sheriff, but we'll see how that goes for them. The receivers are different. They added Christian Kirk. They're paying him like he's the #1 receiver. They're getting their running backs back from injuries. They barely played last season. I mean, Travis Etienne, I don't even think played a game last year. And then defensively, like I said, it's a complete overhaul with the linebacker group and even the secondary adding Shaquille. It's a lot of changes there, man. And so even though we have some changes on offense, they have just as many changes on offense except for the quarterback. And then on defense, it's almost an entirely new defense. So I feel like if we could just avoid self-inflicted errors, including penalties and dumb turnovers. I'm not even just talking about turnovers in general. I'm talking about like the quarterback making terrible decisions. I could see Trevor Lawrence and Carson Wentz making terrible decisions, throwing it into double coverage and things like that. And then even outside of the quarterback, it's week 1. So a lot of these guys, especially being younger on both the Jaguars and the Commanders, as far as the receivers go and tight ends, there may even be some dumb drop passes that lead to turnovers or mishandling of the football, fumbles from the young Jaguars running backs. Or we even have Antonio Gibson, who's had a fumbling problem, and Brian Robinson has never had a fumbling problem in college, but he's a young running back as well. So we just got to avoid beating ourselves. Whichever team starts off the fastest and avoids beating themselves the most is gonna win this game. At the end of the day, talent and coaching is gonna matter, of course, but the team that's the most disciplined and avoids beating themselves is gonna be the one that wins this game, point blank period. And then lastly, my score prediction, I have the Washington Commanders beating the Jacksonville Jaguars 23-17. So far in the preseason, even though our offense hasn't been great, our red zone offense definitely looks improved efficiency wise, so I expect us to actually score more touchdowns and less field goals than we're used to. And I actually see us hitting 20 or more points this season quite often with how explosive this offense should be. And I think we'll have quite a bit of 30-point games, I'm not gonna lie, but I think it's week 1. Everybody's gonna be a little rusty, a little bit of out of sync on both sides of the ball, and really just generally throughout the NFL, especially with us having a new quarterback coming into the season in Carson Wentz. Now, he is a veteran, so it shouldn't be too bad like he's a rookie, like as if we were to start Sam Howell, but still, I'm expecting some inconsistencies out there. But at the end of the day, I just think we're the better team. Again, I think us having less change throughout our starters on both offense and defense should affect a lot of things as well. I think the Jaguars, again, I think we're lucky to play them week 1. I still think if we're in midseason form and they're in midseason form, that we probably win the game still. But I think catching them week 1, they're going to struggle with changes more than we struggle with changes. I feel like they're further away from midseason form than we probably are, even though we're known for not starting hot, so we got to start hot. But at the end of the day, I think we're going to move the ball quite easily, and I think as long as we get Trevor Lawrence out of his rhythm, don't allow him to get into a crazy rhythm and crazy chemistry with his targets, and don't let the offensive play calling the Jaguars get into a nice rhythm as well, I think we can shut them down fairly easily. I think we can hold them to less than 17 points. But again, I'm trying to account for how bad the third down defense has looked in the preseason, and just the fact that we do not start games hot, we do not start seasons hot, and so I'm trying to take some of that into account. But I think overall we're just straight up the better team, and again, as long as we don't beat ourselves, we should win this game. So yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section, let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video, all of my matchups, X factors, and especially my score prediction. What's your score prediction and why? And of course, man, please like this video if you liked it, if you learned anything. And as always, I appreciate all of the support, man. Shouts out to all of my sponsors, especially my Pro Bowl sponsors, name you see scrolling on the screen right now. I really appreciate y'all, man. And make sure y'all pull up for the post-game live stream again. I probably won't make it in time to actually live stream during the game like I'm gonna do for the rest of the entire season, but I should definitely be back for the post-game live stream, so make sure y'all pull up for that at least. And without further ado, catch y'all later. I'm out.